The wind came dry out of the mountains that morning, rasping over the bones of the dying town like a whisper from the grave. Dust clung to the boots of men who hadn't spoken to their children in weeks and burned the eyes of women who stopped believing God was listening. The cattle market on the south side of Sundance swelled with sweat, heat, and the stink of desperation. Eli McRae stood at the edge of the auction pen, his hat in his hands, sunburn peeling off his nose in ragged strips. His boots were cracked, left heel stitched with rawhide. One eye was cloudier than the other, a souvenir from a horse's back hoof 4 years ago. His ranch, 40 dry miles west of town, was down to 3 cows, 2 mules, and a half-dead peach tree. He hadn't meant to be here today. He'd meant to trade his broken plow for seed. But then the hammer rang out. Next lot, 12 years of age. Strong arms, good lungs. Fit for hard labor. We'll start at $5. Eli didn't look up. He meant not to. But he did. She stood barefoot in the dust, knees scabbed, hair hacked short like a stable boy's, face blank as winter ash. Her hands were bound at the front with rope, thin wrists chafed raw. No tears. No trembling. Just a kind of stillness that made the crowd uneasy. $6.50, someone called. A miner, judging by the soot. $7, barked another, drunk, wild-eyed, with no shirt beneath his vest. $7.50, Eli said before he knew why. The crowd turned. Silence cracked open like thunder. The auctioneer blinked. $7.50? Do I hear 8? No answer. The man with the soot spat. The drunk cursed and stalked away. Sold, the auctioneer muttered, almost apologetic. Eli stepped forward and untied her wrists. She didn't flinch or thank him. Just looked him over once, slow, appraising, and nodded like she'd been handed a shovel instead of a sentence. They left without a word, the stares following them like flies. Outside the market, Eli hitched his mule to the wagon, then helped her climb aboard. She didn't speak. Just sat stiffly on the plank seat, holding a small burlap sack to her chest like it carried the last of her world. He cleared his throat. Name? Clara. You eat today? She shook her head. He passed her a biscuit from his coat pocket. She sniffed it, then chewed slow. Never took her eyes off the road. They didn't speak again for miles. The sun climbed. The land dried out further with every hoofbeat. Prickly pear and rock gave way to parched scrub, the hills peeling back like old skin. You work? He asked, mostly to fill the silence. She nodded. Cooked some. Picked. Cleaned. Pulled weeds till my fingernails bled. He swallowed. You got family? She looked out over the hills. Had a brother once. They buried him in Georgia. Mama sold me after. Eli didn't ask more. The air between them thickened with the things left unsaid. A wheel hit a rut hard. The wagon groaned. Eli cursed and climbed down. The front wheel was splintered near the hub. Damn thing. He fetched the tools and knelt beside it, sweat dripping from his brow. His hands shook more than they used to. He tightened the bolt, cursed again, stood too fast, and the sky tilted sideways. He hit the dirt hard, head cracking against a stone. When he came to, the world was spinning. Something cool pressed against his lips, water. Clara leaned over him, shadows under her eyes. You passed out, she said. Heat. Wheel, he mumbled. Fixed it. She helped him sit. Used fence wire. It'll hold. He blinked. Her shirt stuck to her back, soaked with sweat and something darker. He saw then, blood. A jagged tear at the shoulder. The blister must have opened. You're hurt. She shrugged. Ain't the worst I had. Eli wanted to say something. Something kind. Something human. But the words got stuck behind old grief and older habits. They rode in silence till dusk. The horizon swallowed the sun in streaks of fire. Eli's ranch came into view, fence posts leaning like drunk men, barn half-rotted, a chimney missing bricks. Clara climbed down and stared at it like she'd seen worse. She probably had. Eli unhitched the mule and showed her the lean-to where she'd sleep. Ain't much, he said. She set her sack inside, then wandered out past the fence line. Eli watched from the porch. A dead calf lay in the tall grass. Wolves circled at a distance, eyes like coals in the fading light. Clara didn't scream or run. She just stood there, fists clenched, watching. That night, he found her trying to patch a fence with sticks and string. Her fingers trembled from exhaustion, but she kept threading twine like it meant something. You don't gotta do that, he said. She didn't look at him. Bought labor, didn't you? He paused. Not tonight. She tied another knot. That man in town, he'd have put me in a cellar. This is better. Eli knelt beside her, the ache in his knees flaring. I didn't buy you to, he stopped. I ain't looking for a servant. She finally looked at him. Then what did you buy? He didn't answer. She stood. By sunset tomorrow, I'll be gone. And then she turned and walked toward the shack. Eli stayed on his knees, staring at the crooked fence, wondering what the hell he'd just done, and why, for the first time in 2 years, he didn't feel so alone. The morning came with frost crusting the mule's whiskers and a quiet that felt heavier than silence. Eli poured coffee into a cracked tin cup and sat on the porch, watching Clara collect eggs from the henhouse with methodical precision. She didn't say good morning, didn't glance his way. But the basket in her arms was steady, and that meant something. After breakfast, she fixed a jammed barn latch, then split kindling without being asked. Her hands bled again, fresh slivers and blisters across her fingers, but she said nothing. Eli wrapped them in clean cloth and she flinched, not from pain, but the touch. Midday, she sat beneath the peach tree, rubbing a stub of soap along her arms at the pump. The water ran red, then clear. She didn't sing. Didn't smile. Just scrubbed as if trying to erase something more than dirt. Eli watched her from the barn window. His rifle rested across his lap, barrel cool, cleaned more out of ritual than necessity. He hadn't fired it in months. Not since the winter raids. The land had changed. Bandits roamed the hill trails now, run-off soldiers and deserters who carved their own justice in places law had forgotten. Last month, a widow south of the ridge was found burned alive in her own cabin. Sheriff said nothing could be done. Folks whispered of a gang in the canyons, 5 men, maybe 6. Faces wrapped in rags. One with a snake tattoo down his neck. That afternoon, Clara was out mending a chicken coop when she paused, head tilting toward the wind. Eli saw it too. Dust rising fast down the ridge trail. A wagon, no. Riders. He grabbed the rifle, hands suddenly unsteady. Get in the root cellar, he called. Clara didn't move. She stared hard at the horizon, squinting. Then she said, "They're not here to trade." 3 men rode in hard, bandanas up, guns loose in their holsters. The lead one, broad-shouldered and pitted with old burned scars, swung down from his horse like he owned the place. His boots were polished. His grin wasn't. Eli stepped off the porch slowly, rifle low but ready. "We ain't got nothin' worth stealing," he said. Scarface smirked. "Then you ain't gonna miss it." The second man, young, twitchy, fingers tapping a rhythm on his revolver, circled toward the barn. The third hung back, eyes scanning Clara, who still stood by the chicken coop, face unreadable. Scarface stepped closer. "That your girl?" Eli didn't answer. His thumb touched the safety. "Pretty little thing," the man said, louder this time. "Don't look like she's from here." Eli raised the rifle halfway. "You want to test your luck?" Scarface laughed. "No need for drama, old man. Just need some water. Maybe some food. And whatever else we fancy." From behind the barn, something snapped. A chicken squawked. Eli's finger twitched on the trigger, but Clara was faster. The blast cracked the air, sharp, mean, and sudden. Twitchy went down, screaming, his leg shredded below the knee. Clara stood in the shadow of the coop, rifle braced against her shoulder, eyes hard as dry stone. Eli didn't know where she'd gotten the old Winchester, must have pulled it from the rafters, same one he'd stashed there during the blizzard years ago. He'd forgotten about it. She hadn't. Scarface froze, blinking at his bleeding man. "Goddamn," he whispered. "Little bitch can shoot." "Next shot's your horse," Clara said. Her voice didn't tremble. The rifle barrel didn't waver. Eli stepped in beside her, shotgun raised now, barrel to Scarface's gut. "You heard her." The third man kicked his horse and bolted, dust trailing. Scarface backed away, hands lifted, rage simmering behind his eyes. "You'll regret this," he said. Eli kept the gun trained. "Not today." They rode off fast, dragging the wounded one behind. Silence returned, heavy with the stench of gunpowder and spilled blood. Eli turned to Clara. "Where'd you learn to shoot like that?" She set the rifle down gently. "My brother taught me. Before he died." He nodded, swallowing what little breath he had left. "You saved my life." She met his gaze. "You bought mine." Later, as the stars blinked over the ridge, they sat by the fire. He made stew with the last of the beans and gave her the bigger portion. She didn't refuse it. "I was 12 when the war ended," Eli said, breaking the quiet. "Came home to find my father gone. House burned. Ma dead in the creek." Clara looked into the fire. "I was 10 when my uncle sold my brother for debt. He never came back." They didn't speak of it more. But something passed between them, like 2 ghosts recognizing the same scar. Before turning in, Eli handed her the Winchester. "Keep it close." She hesitated, then nodded and took it. Inside the shack, she lay on the cot, staring at the wooden slats above. The rifle rested beside her, within arm's reach. Her body ached, and the blood on her back had soaked into the bandage. But sleep came quicker than she expected. Out on the porch, Eli sat with his shotgun across his knees, eyes fixed on the dark hills. For the first time in years, he wasn't afraid to close his eyes. Not because he was strong, but because someone else out there had proven stronger. The sky bruised purple as dawn crept over the hills, stretching long shadows across the brittle earth. A hawk circled overhead, sharp-eyed and silent, while below, Clara shoveled ash from the fire pit with practiced hands. The rifle never left her side. Neither did the silence. Eli came out of the barn limping, an old ache flaring in his hip. He paused when he saw her already tending the chores, feeding the mule, checking the coop, patching the gate with bent nails and stubborn grit. "You sleep?" he asked. She wiped soot on her shirt. "Some." "You could have run," he said, not accusing, just wondering. Clara didn't answer right away. She knelt to re-wrap her hands, fingers stained red again. Then, glancing at him, she said, "And go where?" That stuck in the air between them, heavier than dust. The sun climbed slow, burning off the morning frost. Eli hitched the wagon. The wheel was still cracked but held together with Clara's wire and determination. They rode east, toward the edge of his property where the fencing had collapsed in the spring floods. They worked in silence, driving in posts, stringing barbed wire. Clara wore his old gloves, fingers too big, palms too stiff, but she didn't complain. At one point, she glanced toward the ridge. "You think they'll come back?" she asked. Eli nodded slowly. "Men like that don't forget humiliation. They'll come. Might bring more." She didn't seem afraid. Just angry. "They took everything from the widow south of here," he said after a while. "Burned her in front of her daughter." Clara tightened the wire. "Then we don't wait." By noon, she had a map drawn in the dirt, a plan. Routes through the trees, choke points near the creek, the way the sound carried off the rocks. Eli watched her, surprised not just by her cunning, but her calm. "You think like a soldier," he said. Clara wiped her brow with the back of her arm. "I think like someone who got tired of running." Back at the ranch, they gathered what little they had, 2 rifles, a dozen shells, a rusted bear trap, and enough oil to light 3 torches. Clara sharpened the old knife from the pantry and hid it under her pillow. Eli dug up a bottle of whiskey, not to drink, but to pour into old rags, just in case they needed fire more than bullets. Afternoon light stretched thin over the land. Clara stood in the doorway of the shack, watching Eli as he repaired the porch steps. "You ever had a family?" she asked, voice nearly swallowed by the wind. "I did once," he said without turning. "Wife died birthing our son. Boy made it 2 winters." Clara didn't speak. She sat beside him, the boards creaking under her weight. "I used to think surviving meant being alone," he said. "Figured the land didn't care, so why should I? And now?" He looked at her. Her hair was longer now, curling unevenly at her ears. Her face had lost none of its hardness, but something else had crept in, resolve, maybe. Or roots. "Now I think surviving ain't enough," he said. Clara didn't smile. But her fingers brushed the edge of the porch rail, slow and thoughtful. Near sunset, they heard hoofbeats. Distant. Coming fast. Eli grabbed the shotgun, Clara the rifle. They took positions, he behind the porch post, she by the barn, crouched low behind a stack of feed sacks. Dust rose in the distance. 5 riders this time. Scarface at the front. They didn't charge. They came slow, guns out, eyes scanning the yard. Scarface raised a hand and called, "Old man. Thought we might finish our conversation." Eli said nothing. Clara raised the rifle. "You shot one of mine," Scarface shouted. "Boy bled out on the trail. You owe me." Eli stepped forward slowly. "You'll get nothing here." Scarface grinned. "That ain't true. You've got something worth taking now. She's got fire. I like fire." The others laughed. Then came the first shot, Clara's. Clean. Loud. It clipped the hat off the rider to Scarface's right. He ducked, cursed, fired wildly toward the barn. Chaos broke. Eli fired once, buckshot sprayed into the leg of a rider trying to flank them. The man dropped, screaming. Clara moved like a shadow, darting from the barn to the coop, reloading fast. Another shot rang out, this one from Scarface. It caught the porch rail beside Eli, splinters flying. Then a torch arced through the air, burning rag trailing smoke, and hit the side of the barn. Fire roared. Clara shouted, "The trough," and Eli ran for the pump. Water splashed uselessly. The fire climbed fast. 2 more riders down. One from Clara's shot, another from Eli's second blast. Only Scarface remained, cornered, furious, backing his horse toward the ridge. He glared at them both. "You ain't won. Just delayed it." Clara stepped forward, rifle raised. "Next time, I don't miss." He turned and galloped away, the hill swallowing him whole. They stood there as the barn burned. The animals had been let out. Nothing left but smoke and cinders. Later, they buried the bodies where the land turned rocky. No names. No prayers. Just silence. The fire had blackened half the yard. The barn was gone. The porch steps, again, broken. But the house still stood. So did they. That night, Eli boiled potatoes. Clara carved wood by the fire, something small, square. He watched her hands, slower now, less frantic. "You still leaving?" he asked. She set down the carving. Was thinking about it. And? She looked around. At the ash on her boots. At the rifle beside her. At the place where the peach tree bent toward the stars. "Nowhere else to go," she said softly. "But that ain't the reason." He waited. She met his eyes. "This place feels like maybe it needs me." Eli nodded. Didn't trust himself to speak. She picked up the carving again, just a chunk of wood shaped into something that looked, almost, like a house. Rough. Jagged. Real. And by sunset, she'd chosen to stay.